That's something that, in hindsight, I've come to like so many times now, and I believe LeBron will benefit enormously from playing alongside Luka. That changes everything for LeBron. I would go along with that, yes. Let's move east and switch. We'll start with Middleton, then Ingram. I don't think we have much to say about Ingram either. Maybe we need to say more about that because I just don't understand Ingram. I have a clear opinion on Kuzma. I hate it for the Wizards. I understand the intention to part ways amicably, and I support it. It also has financial implications, as moving below the second apron means you could potentially make another small move today during the day. You're not giving up much. So, as I said, Middleton was already a huge question mark regarding what he can contribute in a playoff run, whether he can contribute anything at all. You are giving up AJ Johnson, whom we had already criticized for having drafted in the first place. It could look dumb in a few years if he develops well, but he didn't help you win a title now with Giannis and Dame. And you're giving that up, so you're essentially giving up a first-round pick, and it then becomes the second best in 2008. From the Blazers to the Wizards. So you have pick 28 and then a first-rounder, but that's the worst among these three teams. Yes, but Kuzma is coming back, who? And I believe I give him that minimal benefit of the doubt. Because during his time with the Lakers, among other things in the bubble championship team, we have already seen that Kuzma can be a very, very valuable role player. But we've also seen how he has evolved in recent years in Washington from a good stats, bad team guy to a bad stats, bad team guy. And the current season is absolutely abysmal. 93 offensive rating. And his career high is, by the way, 106. So even in his best days, Kuzma was never an efficient offensive player, and he has an on-off value of -12 with the Wizards. So the Wizards are 12 points worse with him on the floor than without him. With the Wizards, it's really, I believe you can't emphasize enough how desolate Kuzma is currently playing. And unfortunately, throughout the season, any optimism that he now comes into this Bucks team and suddenly becomes a valuable 3D player who provides some secondary creation, some athleticism, some defense, this player may still have it somewhere within him. But I currently have no reason to believe that the Bucks will get this player. I don't know if you're more optimistic, but somewhat you can excuse it all because you play for the Wizards and, of course, it bothers you that nothing is happening there right now. And if he comes back into relevant basketball circles now, then it will come back again. I would have liked to say that, for example, last summer. And there we also speculated which team he was in talks with, Dallas and so on. But the season he is currently playing is so desolate that I simply lack the belief that the Bucks would benefit from this version of Kuzma, which would truly help them and could potentially be an upgrade compared to Chris Middleton. I doubt they'll adopt that version, which is the central question. However, I believe they're more likely than not to accept the Washington version, expecting a middle ground settlement. But more towards the old Kyle, who was at that time a third or fourth option for the Lakers, a good defender, a good cutter, a good playmaker, a good catch-and-shoot spot-up shooter who created many valuable role players. I experienced it firsthand, basically as a Lakers fan, that he greatly helps a championship team win the championship. And I believe the context in Washington is simply important. Yes, he played poorly and that's partly his own fault. And things like free throw percentage suddenly have little to do with the team context. But the way he was used, the way he played, that was a completely different role, a completely different situation than alongside Giannis and Dame on a team that truly wants to win, where things are taken seriously. I assume we'll see a very different Kuzma in Milwaukee compared to how we've seen him in Washington this season and last season. I believe he can help this team further. But giving up Middleton, I still don't understand. If another move comes now, you might have tried to bring in Butler because you've moved below the second round and enjoy more freedom again. If you had done it differently, it would have been more understandable. But if you do nothing now and just move below the second round simply to be under the second round but not to do anything with this advantage anymore, I just can't really understand it. Middleton isn't the scapegoat. In Milwaukee, he's not the reason why. This team has been falling short of expectations so far, even if it got better. Yes, and the rookie you've now given up couldn't crack the rotation there. Certainly partly also a bit too bad because the Bucks lost so many games at the beginning of the season that you just couldn't experiment at all. If the Bucks had been equipped well, then maybe everything would have been a bit different. But because you were under so much pressure to win games so quickly, no real chance arose. Frustrating for Milwaukee. This is another first-round pick. Yes, nothing has come of it now, especially as a team that's been built in terms of salaries like the Wizards in recent years. You always have to take a draft pick, and it's just another one of those picks where you didn't hold on. But the loss is considerably greater than we had anticipated initially. Now, not a catastrophe in my eyes, but I can't fully understand why he did that, even though I am more optimistic about Kuzma's fit and his performance there, I believe, than many others. You are too in this case. As I said, I think it's okay to do it as a flyer. As I said, I have nothing against parting ways amicably. AJ Johnson, yes, doesn't hurt you in terms of play. The pick swap is basically it probably won't hurt you. So yes, you'll probably still get the worst one. I don't know, maybe the Blazers or the Wizards are better than the Bugs. I wouldn't necessarily bet on 2028 now, but of course it could happen in 3 years. Briefly from Wizards' perspective. Yes, I think that's okay. So, that you can still get a first-round swap for Kuzma here, you can look at AJ Johnson. Who knows, maybe a player who was really considered a prospect, who was in the high school rankings before he went to Australia for his non-college season and was highly ranked. Someone who certainly has great potential somewhere. Middleton has a $34 million player option in the summer. Can you imagine he takes it? Unless he manages to showcase himself a bit more in Washington in the final phase of the season and perhaps signs elsewhere in the summer in a year when otherwise, there shouldn't be too many high-class free agents on the market. And even if you keep Middleton next year with his $34 million, maybe a buyout sometime during the season or you trade him as a big, expiring player is okay for the Wizards. I think, as I said, I think many around the league are so much down regarding Kuzma based on his performances. I don't know if you could still get a proper first-round pick and maybe a real young talent somewhere for Kuzma. I just can't imagine it. Therefore, from the Wizards' perspective, solid, I would say. MHM.